Have you ever felt like you're always on trial in your relationships, but you never really know what crime you're being judged for? You try to say the right thing, act the right way, be the man you think she wants, and still, she pulls back. Still, she looks at you with that quiet scrutiny, like she's searching for something you can't give her. Like you're being tested, but the rules of the test keep changing. It's not just frustrating, it's humiliating. It makes you question yourself, makes you wonder if you're too much or not enough. If you're missing something every other man just seems to understand. And in the middle of that confusion, you start to lose yourself. You stop asking the real questions. You become obsessed with passing her test instead of understanding why it exists in the first place. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living, especially in love." He didn't add the last part, but he could have. Because love that isn't examined, that isn't questioned, that isn't understood, becomes a theater of illusions. We think we're pursuing someone, but what we're really doing is running from ourselves. We try to impress her, please her, win her over. We treat attraction like a checklist: stability, kindness, consistency. And yet none of those seem to matter if we lack the one thing she can't put into words: depth. Not charm, not confidence. Depth. That rare presence of a man who doesn't just act right, but who sees himself clearly. A man who doesn't flinch under scrutiny because he's already examined his own soul. Most men fail not because they are weak, but because they avoid this internal confrontation. She isn't testing you because she enjoys your confusion. She's testing you because something inside her is begging for certainty, for congruence. She needs to know that when she challenges you, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, you won't collapse. Not because you're a brick wall, but because you are grounded. She's not looking for dominance. She's looking for integrity. And your ability to withstand her distance, her silence, her probing questions, it all reveals whether you have it, or whether you're just pretending. Most men interpret a woman's emotional tests as manipulation, as games. But it's deeper than that. They're not games, they're mirrors. And if you hate what you see in that mirror, if you feel exposed, small, unstable, it's not because of her. It's because you haven't asked yourself the right questions. You haven't wrestled with your own contradictions. You haven't looked at your own fear of inadequacy and said, "I see you, but I'm not running from you anymore." That's what makes a man unshakable. Not perfection, but presence. A man who can be hurt and not turn cold. Who can be challenged and not become defensive. Who can be seen fully and still remain. We think strength means having the answers. But what if true strength begins with having better questions? Questions like, why do I need her validation so badly? What am I trying to prove? Why does her rejection feel like annihilation instead of a redirection? These aren't romantic questions, they're existential ones. Because love will expose what your ego tries to hide. And when a woman withdraws, goes cold, pushes back, it's not always punishment. Sometimes it's revelation. A spotlight on your insecurities. A trigger for every unhealed part of you. This is why most men fail her tests. Not because they're bad men, but because they try to control what they haven't yet understood. They get angry when she's distant, desperate when she's vague, passive when she's strong. But all of this is just reaction. Fear disguised as action. And fear, no matter how polite or strategic, can't carry a relationship. It can only destroy it slowly, from within. A woman doesn't want you to be perfect. She wants to feel your center, your spine, the stillness beneath the storm. Because if you don't know who you are, how can she trust that your love means anything? And here's the part no one tells you. Women don't consciously plan these tests. They're not scheming. These moments are intuitive, unconscious, and yet they are deeply accurate. A woman's intuition, especially in love, functions like a compass. She feels what words can't say. She notices when your energy is off, when your smile is covering fear, when your gentleness is actually submission. She might not explain it. She might not even be aware of it. But her body, her silence, her withdrawal, They all signal something. You are not who you're pretending to be. You're performing stability, not embodying it. So what do you do when you're being tested? Most men try harder. They buy things, send longer messages, apologize for things they didn't even do. They negotiate. And in doing so, they betray themselves. Because love is not about negotiation. It's about clarity. And clarity doesn't come from proving anything. It comes from being something. Not something for her, but something to yourself. You need to become the man who doesn't panic when he's doubted, who doesn't crumble when his love is questioned, who doesn't fight for approval, but who stands in truth, even if it means standing alone. You feel that? That ache in your chest? That discomfort in your stomach? That's the cost of transformation. Because to become this kind of man, you have to let the old one die. The one who chased love like a prize. The one who lived for praise. The one who thought masculinity was about being wanted instead of being whole. You have to bury him. With all his performance. With all his resentment. With all his need for external validation. And in his place, you grow something different. Not louder, not tougher. Just more honest, more grounded, more real. But honesty is terrifying, isn't it? Because it strips you of your armor. And most men don't realize how much of their identity was built on defense. The charming guy, the nice guy, the stoic guy. All masks, all strategies. None of them are bad. Until they become prisons. Until you forget that who you are beneath them is still there, waiting to be reclaimed. But women can feel it. When you're not fully in yourself. When you're orbiting their moods instead of anchoring your own. That's why they test. Not to destroy you, but to meet the man who won't disappear when it's hard. Because real intimacy is not soft. It's surgical. It cuts deep into your illusions. A woman's test is the blade. She's not testing your worth. She's testing your depth. She wants to know, can I collapse in front of you without collapsing you? Can I question everything and still find you solid? Can I be wild, lost, unfiltered, and still feel safe? And if you're not ready, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've never been taught what strength actually is. Strength isn't control. Strength is presence. The ability to sit in discomfort, stay grounded in confusion, and not lash out just to feel powerful again. And when you can do that, when you can hold the fire without extinguishing it or fleeing from it, you become rare. Not flashy, not dominant, just rare. A man who listens more than he reacts, who asks before assuming, who breathes before answering. Women remember these men, even if they walk away from them. Because these are the men who don't beg for love. They invite it. Who don't fear being alone. Because they've made peace with themselves. Who don't collapse at the first sign of rejection. Because they've stopped making her love the measure of their masculinity. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing her to validate your identity, you become more attractive. Not because you played a trick, but because you finally became real. And being real is magnetic, not to every woman, but to the right kind of woman. The one who has done some of her own inner work. Who can see your steadiness and recognize it as sacred, not boring. That woman doesn't want a hero. She wants a partner. A man who isn't intimidated by her emotions. Who can face her fire without putting it out. Who knows that when she tests him, she's not trying to win. She's trying to feel safe enough to let go. Do you feel that tension inside? That push and pull between who you are and who you think you should be? You're not alone. Every man who's ever truly loved has stood at this crossroads. One path leads to performance, to endless trying, to needing her to tell you you're enough. The other leads to silence, depth, self-respect. That path is harder, but it's where love actually lives. Not love that consumes you. Love that grounds you. Love that doesn't need constant reassurance, because it's not based on fantasy. It's rooted in truth. And truth, when it arrives, doesn't always feel like light. Sometimes it feels like collapse. Like the moment you realize you've been chasing connection while running from yourself. Like the sting of seeing all the ways you've tried to earn love by being less of who you are. That's the pain beneath the test. That's the mirror she holds up when she challenges you, not to humiliate you, but to wake you up. Because a woman's coldness isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's reflection of your absence, of your hesitations, of the parts of you that won't step forward and stand firm. Most men fail not because they're bad, but because they confuse peace with passivity. They confuse validation with love. They confuse tolerance with presence. So when she withdraws, when she pushes, when she spirals, it triggers the fear that you're not enough. And then the mask returns. You try to fix, to explain, to please, to perform. And she feels it. She sees the shift. She watches you become less certain, more reactive. And the test deepens. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she's still searching for your essence. The part of you untouched by her mood, her tears, her chaos. That's the spiritual work. To love without merging. To stay open without surrendering your center. To witness her without needing to save her. And to hold your own chaos without demanding she regulate it for you. Most men were never shown how to do that. We were told to protect, to provide, to pursue, but rarely to be still, to hold space, to observe without reacting. And yet that is exactly what she craves. A man who won't vanish when she questions everything. Who won't punish her for feeling deeply. Who doesn't take her confusion as a threat to his worth. Because love isn't a script, it's a dance. And sometimes she'll lose rhythm. She'll stumble. She'll twist away. Not because she's done, but because she's afraid. Afraid that she's too much. Afraid that her fire will burn the thing she loves most. And in that moment, she's asking without words, "Can you still see me? Even now? Even here?" Not the polished version. Not the easy version. The raw version. The one she hides from everyone but you. And if you flinch, if you retreat, if you crumble, she remembers. Not to punish you, but because now she knows. You don't just love her light. You fear her dark. But if you stay, if you breathe, if you soften instead of harden, something opens. Not immediately, not romantically, but deeply. She begins to trust the soil of you. And from that trust, love can grow. Real love. Not admiration, not dependency. Not the kind of infatuation that disappears the moment she changes her tone, but the kind that stands in fire and still reaches out. That says, "I see your storm and I don't need to fix it. I just won't run from it." That kind of man, she won't forget, even if she doesn't know how to say it, even if she leaves, even if it takes her years to understand why she misses you. That's what you're here to become. Not her answer, not her fantasy, her mirror, her anchor, her equal. But first, you have to stop proving yourself. You have to meet the part of you that feels unworthy unless she's smiling. You have to confront the silence you've been avoiding, the one that lives just below the need to be liked. That silence isn't emptiness, it's truth. It's the place where your masculine begins, not the performance, not the posturing, but the presence. The part of you that knows who you are even when she doesn't. Because the final test isn't about her, it's about you. It's about whether you can remain grounded in your essence when everything around you tries to pull you away from it. When she doubts you, when life disappoints you, when your ego screams for control, for clarity, for confirmation. It's about whether you can stay present without a reward, whether you can choose depth over reaction, and whether you can love without needing to be loved back in a specific way, on a specific timeline. This is where most men quit, not because they lack strength, but because they've been conditioned to chase certainty, to trade presence for performance. But women, real women, don't want performance. They want truth. They want to feel the man who can look at himself without flinching, who can be alone without collapsing, who can be with her pain without turning it into his. A man who doesn't need her to shrink for him to feel big, who doesn't collapse into shame when she pulls away, who doesn't beg, manipulate, or disappear, but listens, stands, waits, and breathes. Because feminine testing isn't cruelty. It's a compass. It points to your blind spots. It exposes where you've built identity instead of soul. It calls out the places you've been faking confidence, hiding softness, or denying hunger. And if you can sit in the discomfort of that revelation, If you can resist the urge to defend or escape, you grow. You become someone capable of holding real love. Not because you passed her test, but because you passed your own. You stopped chasing approval and started living truthfully. And in that, you become rare, not flashy, not loud, but steady, magnetic, unshakable. Because your value no longer depends on being chosen. It radiates from being whole. She may notice, she may return, or she may not. That's not the point. Because the man you become in this process is the point. The man who no longer fears the test, who welcomes it, who thanks it. Because he knows it stripped away everything false and left only what was real. His center, his clarity, his soul. And if you're feeling the weight of all this, if you've been tested, rejected, confused, know this: you're not broken. You're just being asked to wake up, to love deeper, to stand firmer, to become the man you were always meant to be. It hurts, it's disorienting, but it's also sacred. And you're not alone. You feel this too? Tell me in the comments. I want to read your story, your truth, your silence. If this resonated with you, if it echoed something you've been afraid to say, subscribe to this channel. Not for me, for you. Because we need to talk about what no one talks about what it really means to love, to be a man, to be tested, and to pass not by fighting back, but by finally becoming whole.